everybody, and a happy Friday to you. This is Omar Serrano, joined by Eliana Colon Rosa with the Tilted Lawyer podcast. This morning's show, there has been some developments in the infamous case revolving around Christopher Watts, who is in prison, and he's not having the best of times. He's constantly in fear of his life. He has new thoughts with respect to Nichol Kessinger. We have very famously dove into this case to the max. We did recaps. We did a whole examination of the thousands of pages of discovery, however much it was. We did a mock trial involving what it would look like to actually cross-examine Nichol Kessinger. We've been interested in this case. We've been on other channels. I've been in contact with Watts the Obsession, with Zawaki, about whether or not Nichol Kessinger would ever be implicated. My response to them has always been the same. There's not enough evidence inherent in the discovery to lead to a conviction or charges, let alone, not even charge her. But I could foresee, come on in, Melissa. I could foresee an occasion where he might get so fed up, where he might offer some kind of alternate confession that implicates Nichol Kessinger that may compel the charging authorities into perhaps looking at her a little bit more closely. We're going to go over all of that. We're going to do a recap of why we were suspicious of Nichol in the first place. And then we are going to go over some of the letters that Watts has been writing, including a brand new version of a confession. When I say brand new, I mean, he wrote it in 21. It was different from what he gave the FBI. We're going to go over some of his opinions about what he's been saying about Nichol, and that she kind of forced him or tricked him into doing what he did, how the murders were planned, at least a day in advance before they did it, and why that is important given what we know about the inconsistencies in Nichol's story and in the evidence. It's going to be a wild one. You're going to want to stick around. Let's get started.
Whatever you might be going through and wherever you might be, this is Omar Serrano with the Tilted Lawyer podcast. I'm here to take your mind off of things. Yes, I'm an attorney. No, I'm not giving you legal advice. We're going to sit and talk like people, as these are the candid thoughts of one practicing attorney, and it's after hours. So have a seat. Feel free to have a drink and join me. Let's get started.
Okay. Hey, Melissa, what's going on? How are
Hey.
you? Did you get your latte?
Yes, I did.
Did you get your pumpkin spice latte?
No, I did that yesterday.
You know, I've never tried a pumpkin spice latte ever in my life.
Okay,
So when you offered it to me this morning, I was like, no. And I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything.
I actually wanted you to snark at it and said one of your comments. I was waiting for that, but you did not. You just pointed me.
My comments are always authentic. And so they're not on demand. They're always in the moment. And so if there was something to have been said. So listen, I know all of you are familiar with the Chris Watts case. It's probably the most famous true crime story that's come out over the last 6 years.
Mhm.
And it continues to ruminate in the minds of those that have been following this case for one simple reason, I believe. And I believe that reason is that people feel that Nichol Kessinger was involved in a manner much greater than what law enforcement believed that she was. I feel like the annihilation of a family and the manner in which Chris Watts did it has so captured the public sentiment that they're not willing to let this case go. And I think that people feel, because all the discovery is public information out there, and there was a number of questions that were raised in the interrogation of Nichol Kessinger that have never gone solved. There's a lot of evidentiary issues that just people feel that the investigation was incomplete. When you leave an investigation open like that without answering critical questions, you're always going to have people invested in the case that want answers. And so there have been entire YouTube channels that have been committed and fascinated with this case with the sole purpose of trying to bring justice to the families, wherever that might lead. So when I say wherever it may lead, people aren't satisfied that Christopher Watts is the only person responsible. There are people out there that have been saying for years that Nichol Kessinger was involved a lot more than, oh, she's just the unruly mistress that had no idea that this was going on, such as Amber Heard. The problem with that is she's destroying SIM cards and she's deleting evidence and she's hiding text messages, and her cell phone is pinging at the site of the murder in the wee early hours of when everything was discovered, when they discovered that Shanann was missing.
Comparing Amber Heard with Nicole?
Because that's the famous, when it comes to mistresses, there's two famous ones. It's Amber Heard and it's Nichol Kessinger.
Which Amber Heard are you talking about?
The one with Scott Peterson.
Okay, yes.
Back in like 03 or whenever that all happened.
Okay.
So now she was a mistress, but she genuinely, legitimately just had no idea that her boyfriend, Scott Peterson, was involved or was married. What does that sign mean? Oh, is that okay? But the way that she conducted herself when confronted with law enforcement was directly opposite to how Nichol Kessinger had it. What was I saying?
You're saying Amber Heard.
It is Amber Fry. It is.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It's Amber
There we
Fry.
go. I was confused too.
Guy's name, when you said the guy's name, I was like, oh, okay.
I already know that I'm going to get crucified in the comments. He can't even get the names right. It's like, Jesus, people.
Amber Heard is one from Johnny Depp.
Yeah. So Amber Fry just handled herself a lot different. Nichol Kessinger was hiding things. She was not forthcoming. She was lying about certain things. Her cell phone was pinging at the murder site. Her alibi was not ever verified. There was mysterious phone calls during the time of the investigation for like 111 minutes. They were talking about something. She was listening in on phone calls between Chris Watts and the detectives in the case at the time. People have not been satisfied by what went down. So, and all of that has come to a head. You sat, Melissa, and played the role of Nichol Kessinger in a mock trial.
That up, right?
And by the way, if you haven't caught the mock cross-examination that I did of Melissa Pacheco de Castro, Dominic, link to that video if you can, and all of the Watts stuff.
That's Omar's favorite episode because he made me cry.
It was my favorite podcast moment because you had legit tears, and I didn't have the object. Dominic was supposed to handle the objections, and he'd be sit there like,
No, you were doing two. I think you were doing two roles at the same time.
Oh, I had to because Dominic wasn't participating. He didn't know how to object, so I was objecting to myself, and so it's like this neurotic exercise. I was playing Phil Hendry.
We needed you, Ileana. We needed you.
Yeah.
But even when Ileana was here to object, when I did the whole thing with Megan Fox.
Yeah, no, but that day I remember whoever was on the other side. I can't remember her name. She was doing such a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was so distracted by that I would just forget to object. I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I'm here to do something, not to just watch.
And then when you would object, I would say overruled.
Exactly. It was because you were the judge too, and it didn't make sense. Even if it was a clear, sustained objection, you still overruled them.
Clear my ass. There was nothing clear about those objections.
Yeah.
Oh, was that a language faux pas? I can't say ass nowadays. How woke are you, man?
I think
Jesus. It's people like you why people think that like the blue party is going off the rails. You're gonna have to lighten up, man.
Me with a political party, please and thank you.
What's your political party?
That's the thing. I know people here catalog themselves. I don't have one.
Yeah, you do. You totally do.
No.
You're about as blue as they come, man. You're like a big blue moon over there. All right, I gotta get in character. When I say get in character, I mean I gotta. All right, so let's go through a brief timeline of what we know about Kessinger. This is what had people so suspicious about her. I'm going over my notes from the show that we did way back in February of this year. She had claimed. So this is what we know. When she was interrogated by police, this is the role that she was playing. He says that she had encouraged Chris that you got to salvage your marriage, man. You got to work on stuff. You're married with kids. You got a beautiful thing going. Why mess that up on account of me? She says, I don't want them to break up the marriage. I don't, there was children involved. I encouraged him to focus on fixing his marriage and being a good father. And there are plenty of people out there that had visceral reactions to that. It's like, so she's trying to make herself out to be like the martyr. Does she want like a medal because, she's the mistress, but she encouraged him to get back with his wife. And so it's okay. So she's throwing everybody else under the bus and like
Except her.
projecting everybody else's guilt other than her own, and trying to claim without any evidence supporting that she was trying to get the family back together. That's what she said. There was allegations of coaching and protection. People were up in arms about Chris potentially trying to protect Nicole. He was very famously stated in his interrogation, there are things that I know that I'm just taking to my grave. I'll never, leave Nicole alone. I kept on saying things like that over and over and over again. People were upset that Nicole's father, who doesn't have any connections to law enforcement or any other reason to be there, was allowed to be present in the interrogation room while it was going on. And he interjected himself when they started to get to the meat of some of these questions. He interjected and threw himself in there, preventing her from potentially saying incriminating stuff or giving the cops more information that they were looking for. And he's barking at this officer. And that rubbed people the wrong way, including myself. But my justification for law enforcement at the time, and still to this day, was I'm not sure that she would have been willing to voluntarily come down and talk without her father present. Her dad is not the same as an attorney. And so if I am just looking for information, all I'm trying to do as an investigator is to get her talking as much as possible, because you never know when she's going to slip up. And she slipped up several times. Yeah.
That's the clip I used to study for the character.
Nicole gives conflicting statements about her work timeline and Anadarko, her involvement with Chris Rotz, the timing of when they met. She claimed at the time that she was only working there for 4 months, but it doesn't coincide with how she says that she met Chris. There was deleted searches for Christopher Watts and Shanann Watts months before Nicole had claimed to have started working there. I addressed that on multiple episodes. It's either those were mistakes in the investigation or typos in the investigation, or a typo with the investigator with regard to the dates, or she was actually searching for Christopher Watts long before she ever said she met Christopher Watts, because she didn't start working there until months after the searches anyway. We had asked the question of why the FBI did not target Nicole, because we had proof of her lying to law enforcement. Unequivocally, there was proof of her giving misstatements to law enforcement during her interrogation.
A lot of times.
She was engaged in a scandalous affair with Christopher Watts that seemed to escalate up until and including the dates of the murder. Her cell phone was pinging at the location where the murders had occurred. There was all kinds of photographic evidence about stuff. People are suspicious of her. So she was interviewed August 16th. This is a few days after Shanann is found. Nicole says that she had stopped talking to Chris on or about the second day of Shanann's disappearance because he was way too casual about it. I just wasn't comfortable with the way that he just wasn't taking this serious. And so I cut it all off after that. Come to find out that she has been communicating with Chris via aliases in jailhouse letters. I haven't seen any of those letters. I've heard it alleged. But there's all kinds of reports out there that she has continued communication with Chris, wanting to, I guess, tie up loose ends or perhaps get some closure on what was a wayward relationship that ended up in the annihilation of a family in the worst way that you could possibly imagine. Nicole had maintained that she made a mistake by getting involved with Chris before he separated from his wife. On one hand, she tries to say that, well, I thought they were separated, and turns out, oh, well, I guess they were married. And then she says that her mistake was continuing it when she knew that he was still married and not permanently separate from his wife. She had encouraged him, according to her, to take time to develop his own identity, to embrace the beauty of being single, which I feel like he was already doing that as a married man with children, like taking her on trips and going to like the sand dunes and going to these restaurants and going, to her house on one occasion while Shanann was on a family trip.
She was on the other side of the
She
country.
went to the Watts house.
Mhm.
And probably had relations in there. She had driven Shanann's car before. She had been all up and down, and I had speculated that perhaps if we were going to make a case about motive in terms of trying to craft a murder scenario for Christopher Watts, she sees all of the images of Watts and his beautiful family, and she realizes that, hey, she's just the mistress and nothing more. And she had an ego. And there's some women that are okay being a mistress and others that are highly egotistical about it. And if she was of the egotistical mindset, then it's feasible to conclude that she had planted seeds of choose me or choose your family, but you can't have both. And it would extremely fit her egotistical view of herself and give her, I don't know, marks on her belt or whatever, to have a married man discard his family and choose her, regardless of whether or not she wanted them murdered or not. The fact that I just think her knowledge, being the age that she was, as immature as she was, the feather in her cap that she got a married man to leave his family for her is what she was looking for. Maybe that is a theory that I've thrown out there. She was looking at wedding dresses, Googling about marrying a mistress, in spite of claiming to cops that all she wanted was like a casual thing, but she's looking for wedding dresses.
I don't want to defend Nicole, but I do believe the wedding dress casual search.
Well,
and I know
said the same
Ileana
thing.
exactly. She's on board with me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's the dumbest thing that girls do.
It's not
like
the
what?
dumbest thing, Omar.
You're right. It's not the dumbest thing, but it is a dumb thing. That why would you? Okay, if you're not all right.
We had this conversation already.
I was unsatisfied with the outcome.
This is two married women talking about it.
What a fascination with the wedding dresses, man. You all are never getting married again, presumably.
They're pretty to look at. You just...
They're pretty. It's okay looking at pickup trucks and cars that they're never going to buy, but they just look good because they need them. That's it. Same thing.
Let's go through this brief timeline. Just as a refresher, in case you've been living in Alaska without Wi-Fi.
I don't even Alaska, under a rock.
All right. On August 4th, Kessinger shops for wedding dresses online just weeks after they started talking. Kessinger's cell phone data shows that she was looking on wedding dresses for like a couple of hours. It wasn't just like, oh, look, I'm bored of work for 5 minutes. And, she was shopping. Okay, now you just said you look at wedding dresses because, oh, they're pretty. But are you going to like feed your need to see pretty things for 2 hours?
Yes.
I don't get it.
You can get so distracted on Pinterest, for example, and spend easily 2 hours.
2 hours.
You're waiting, I don't know, at a doctor's appointment or something like that. Yeah, 2 hours.
Hey, Dominic, do you want to go look at wedding tuxes for fun? For a couple of hours, you go down to LA. We could like get a latte, perhaps.
Oh my!
Come on, man. This is why men and women are just not. There's a reason why we're just not the same. All right. So August 9th, Shanann leaves on a business trip to Arizona.
He picks her up.
She had been confiding in her friends that her marriage with Chris was falling apart, and this had been going on for months. And this, in spite of Chris's, I can't. When I go back and I think about those text message exchanges,
between her and her friends.
No, between her and Chris.
Okay.
The way that she was trying to salvage things and the way that Chris was checked out.
It
was the most heartbreaking of exercises to go back and see how much Shanann was fighting to salvage something that was very clearly dead. And look, most people do that. They do that. That you try to resurrect your marriage. We're going to do Family Law After Dark, and we're going to talk about people that want to resurrect what they perceive to be a failed marriage. But most of them, like 99% of them, never have this idea that they're going to end their lives as a result. What do I got here? By the way, folks, before we go any further, hey, Pam, you found our YouTube member. We just implemented YouTube memberships. If you're unfamiliar or you haven't had the opportunity to do it yet, check out our memberships. There's going to be exclusive perks specific to our YouTube members. For example, we're starting daily audio-only podcasts that are going to be distributed to every single podcast carrier out there, whoever it is you subscribe to. And as a YouTube member, you will not only be able to listen into that on our YouTube channel, but you'll be able to see it live and interact. You'll have a direct line to me to call into the show and participate in various ways. Check out our memberships. They're tiered. There's 3 different levels. Perhaps that might change into 4 or 5, depending on what happens. But definitely check out our memberships. Pam is signed up.
Oh.
How come I can't see? Oh, here we go. Pam has generously gifted 50 Tilted Lawyer memberships to every. Thank you so much for doing that, Pam. Pam continues to be my ace in the hole. Of all the moderators out there, she's like the big boss lady, CEO of moderators. She is fantastic. She's been on the show before. Hopefully she'll be on the show in the future, maybe on a Family Law After Dark this afternoon, or perhaps some other time. She's been on our poker night shows. She works in finance. She's an amazing person, an amazing woman. And I thank her for all of her hard work on this show. To that regard, Moira, one of our newer subscribers, I believe, has also become a member. Thank you so much for doing that. Pam has herself become a member. So check out the membership for YouTube. You're gonna like it. There's gonna be a lot there to talk about. Where did I leave off, Dominic? My producer extraordinaire over here.
We were going through the timeline, and then you were talking about the text messages that Shanann exchanged with Chris, and you were like,
"That's right."
Like it looks like it was actually a dead marriage. He just had checked out.
Yeah,
and
like most
so
people,
hardly trying.
when they're trying to salvage their marriage, just all right. Worst case scenario, it's not going to work out, and I'll get divorced and move on. Whatever. Put them on child support. We'll get a visitation plan in place, and we'll sell the house and divide the assets. I'll start over. I'll be sad for like 6 months, and then I'll go into a single ladies phase, and perhaps go into life not searching for a lifelong mate, but just trying to find myself. And it'll be like how Stella got her groove back. Both of y'all don't know what that movie is. I bet it was from the 90s. And then perhaps, I could have a future with somebody new, but, throwing it to the caution of the wind as far as the direction that your life goes. For her life ended a few days later because, and we're going to get into why, Chris has new thoughts. So August 11th, Chris hires a babysitter, goes out with Nicole while Shanann is away. Chris gets the babysitter saying that he's going to go to a baseball game with coworkers to watch the Rockies.
No, he went to the Lazy Dog.
The Lazy Dog Bar with Kessinger on August 13th at 1:48 a.m. And everybody's well-versed in this. I'm sure it's ingrained in your mind, in your mind's eye. When Shanann returns home from a business trip at 1:48 a.m., she's carrying luggage. She had been dropped off by her friend, Nicole Atkinson. And that was the last time she was ever captured on video alive. That was it. On that date, Chris wakes, according to his initial confessions, he says that he wakes Shanann as he's getting ready to go to work and wants to talk about their marriage and future. Was not the case. He didn't want to talk about a future with Shanann. He didn't want to talk about a marriage with Shanann. He was already checked out. Despite Shanann carrying their unborn son, Nico, tells her about his affair, tells her about Nicole, that their marriage isn't going to last. Shanann replies that Chris is never going to see the kids ever again. Whether or not Shanann ever said that, I don't think she ever said that. I don't think that there was a discussion, to be honest with you. I think that he had a plan. He executed it. According to post-FBI confessions, this was not something that happened in the spur of the moment. He knew at least a day in advance that he was going to do this. And we're going to go over a letter where he had confessed to another lady. But essentially what he did, he first attempted to suffocate his 2 young daughters, Bella and Cece. thought that they were gone, thought they were dead. Turns out that they were not. And not only were they not, they had woken up, gone back to their parents' room to ask dad what he's doing to mom. Their eyes were bruised because he tried to smother them. After he did that, after he thought he killed his daughters, he goes back into the room. There was no discussion. He went in there to execute her with his bare hands. And he did that. And then the horrific events continue to play out. Gosh. But according to what he had said before, he says that, what was this discussion? And then she says, I'm not going to see the kids again. And then I snapped. And then people just kind of ran with that. And I had no reason to believe otherwise, but he's confessed otherwise. So he says, after he had strangled Shanann to death, Bella, who was 4 years old, comes in and asks what's wrong with mom. And Chris wraps Shanann in a blanket, carries her to his truck. Now, what we know now, if you are to believe his confession to this lady in a jailhouse visit, is that this was after he had tried to smother death Bella and Cece. And she's waking up asking what's wrong with mom. Imagine the horror of a 3 and a 4-year-old. My daughter Evelyn is like 4 years old right now. She is like the most intelligent, intuitive little girl that you've ever met. I could not imagine. She's like afraid to go to the dark. She's afraid to go to the bathroom in the dark, when, like in the daytime, because the lights are not on in the bathroom. The sun it's 109 degrees outside. She doesn't want to go to the bathroom by herself because she's afraid of the dark. These little girls have just witnessed their deceased mother and dad in full demon mode, doing whatever it is that he was doing. So we have that. He wraps Shanann in a blanket, carries her to the truck, puts the 2 kids in the back seat, drives to his work site. And it was at that time when he arrives to the work site that he then smothers Celeste, who's in the back seat. And then right after that, Bella's next. He said that Bella had asked, basically pled for her life. She fought for her life. And then he took her life as well. And then later in one of these jail letters to these women he's been talking to, he says that I was surprised to know how easy it was for me to discard of their bodies into these oil tankers. Doesn't even put them together. He puts them in separate oil tankers that was like 8 inches wide. Just drops them in there. And he says he knew that they were gone as soon as their bodies hit the oil. And they had to excavate their bodies and essentially drain the tanks and recover their bodies drenched in oil and everything else. There's some suggestion from the autopsy reports that they were not deceased, that
they drowned in oil, basically.
Well, they were in there, and the fact that there was oil in the lungs indicates that they were alive or had woken up and deceased after the fact. So the guy couldn't even do that right. And what would have been more merciful for them to be, it's like gosh.
Let's continue.
It's just too much.
No, not talking about kids, please.
So she's on the phone with Chris in the early morning hours of August 14th in 2018. It was suspected that she was listening into the conversation that Chris was having with the detectives. Chris is the dumbest criminal he had no ability. He really thought that he was just going to talk his way out of it, man. They had a beat on him from the very beginning. He wasn't going anywhere, but he had it in his mind that he was going to get away with this. She had admitted to speaking to Chris about Shanann's wedding ring, she being Nicole. Kessinger was informed about her affair being exposed. He took steps to hide the evidence. The reason I know that is because at her workplace supervisor, CBI agent Tammy Lee, informs Tammy Lee that about the affair. They learned about it on August 15th. It was at 8 a.m. CBI agent is informed that Chris began a relationship with a coworker. Nicole was tipped off, and that's why she took the initiative to contact the police. It wasn't to offer her cooperation. It was basically to get in front of what was going to be a very embarrassing story for her. People learning about her affair with a married man.
I don't know why I was under the impression that she quit before they found out.
She was still working there on that day. The 111-minute phone call with Chris on the Sunday night, hours before the murders. they were FaceTiming. She says that she couldn't remember what they had talked about. She said that's not anything significant to me. I can't remember the conversation we had. We had discussed, if we had a 111-minute conversation with anybody, I could count on one hand the number of 111-minute conversations I've had with anybody
in your life
in the last 5 years. I haven't had a 111-minute conversation with anybody this year. I don't think. Even when I was dating my wife, I don't want to talk on the phone with you for 2 hours, man. I got shit to do. Hey, are you coming over or not? Yeah, cool. See you then. Love you. Bye. That's how that would go. I don't know. Melissa, would you talk to your husband for 2 hours on the phone?
He's a phone person, that's why. But everybody's different.
My wife, before she dated me, was dating a guy that was a phone guy.
Okay.
And she was like, WTF with this guy, man.
Okay,
I do
not
not.
a phone person.
Yeah.
That was me. I left somebody just because of that. I just
I don't
couldn't.
need to talk to you every single minute of the day. I don't even need to think about you every single. Just know I'm coming home. I'll be home when I'm home. And you know, I don't get these couples that need to be in contact with each other constantly.
Oh wait, let me see if I have that picture.
What picture?
Keep going.
All right. So Nicole had mentioned when she had visited the Watts house, she mentioned that she had visited twice in a relatively short period of time. What's that?
This is when I was just dating my husband.
What is that supposed to mean? I can't see that far, Melissa. You're going to have to.
I'm giving you the phone.
Oh, all right. Let's stop the show to.
There's phone people and then there's non-phone people.
Oh, is this like he just called you today?
No.
What am I supposed to be looking at?
Look at, it says FaceTime, and then next to it, it says like the duration of the FaceTime.
Oh, it is? 5 hours? Y'all FaceTime 5 hours?
There's phone people and then there's non-phone
For
people.
what? What did you got to talk about for 5 hours?
I was in Canada.
Hey, could you? I'm playing Madden. Could I go? It'd be nice if I could go. I got shit to do. Oh, I don't. Look, I don't have anything against. What do I care about men that are like that? I just don't understand it, is all. Any more than I understand you wanting to look at wedding dresses for hours for no reason, because they're.
Oh my God.
He's not gonna get over it anytime soon.
Oh, I don't understand it. Okay, so
it's like my Fiji water. He doesn't get it either.
Fiji water is the same shit as the water that I buy from Costco. You're getting me up. You know what, man? Fiji water is like, it's the same shit. You're paying a premium for the word Fiji.
You know what he told me? He told me, like, Melissa, what do you want? I can buy here in the office, like, because he buys Diet Coke. And then I said, I want Fiji water. You know what his answer was? Fuck no. And I was like, that's the only thing. I'm not getting you Fiji water.
Anything else? It's not logical, man. It's not. Why would I buy you?
I just want Fiji water. It's pretty.
I don't place value in pretty. I really don't. There's no monetary value in pretty, man. All right, let me not get too far off course here. Nicole mentions going to the Watts house a couple of times. She's feeling very uncomfortable. She doesn't want to stay too long. And why does she not want to stay too long? Because could you just imagine? I know none of you girls have done this. I'm just saying, could you imagine dating a guy that's married and then you go to his house and there's pictures of him with his wife and kids? How would that make you feel?
Same thing when I played Nicole in Toronto.
I did. And what was your answer? I don't remember your answer.
No. I've never done that before, like you mentioned, but I was placing myself in her character. You must feel like crap doing that.
Don't you feel like a second-class citizen? Like he's only after you because of your WAP and for no other reason. As soon as that's done, he's done.
The man who did not know who Megan Thee Stallion was just quoted WAP.
I learned about it because of Megan the Stanley. Megan the Stanley. I learned about WAP because of Megan the Stanley.
It out. But yeah, if you're a reasonable human being, you must feel like shit.
Eliana, how would that make you feel? Let's just say that you didn't know that the guy was married. Then you get there and you find out the guy's married with kids and you see these pictures on the wall. What would your reaction to that?
I would just turn around and leave.
Get the fuck out of here, dude.
Very valid. Like, action, like, bye.
Zawaki's in the house. Zawaki says, here's $20 for Melissa to have a few bottles of Fiji.
Nice.
Zawaki's a G, man. I love Zawaki. He's been on this case for a really long time. He did a couple. He's come on my show before. I've been on his show a couple of times. I feel like every time I go on his show, I'm giving him bad news because I've told him that I just don't. There's not enough evidence to get Nicole, man. But I've always told him this. Ready yourself for an occasion where Chris Watts is so disenchanted with what's happened to him over the years that he decides to offer a full-blown confession and tell what really happened and describes Nicole's involvement in it. And he gives enough credible information to reopen an investigation to possibly implicate her in further charges.
And that's going to be like in 5 years when she
It
gets
could be
tired
now.
of his
I've
and
been
then she cheats on him.
the topic of this podcast is I think he's about to flip.
Yeah. I find it valid. What do you think, Ileana?
I don't know. What does he get if he flips? Like,
He don't get anything, but he gets the satisfaction of knowing that. Well,
Omar, we don't know.
This has been my thought about it. All right, I don't know. I haven't talked to Chris, but this is my thought on it. He was so enamored and in love with her that at first he wanted to protect her. At first, it was like, I'm taking certain secrets in my grave. I'm not going to tell you anything about Nicole. Leave her out of it. That was what he was saying. There was interrogations, right? But he's been sitting in a jail cell for 6 years. And she's out here banging other guys and living on, moving on with her life and perhaps getting married to some other guy, having other kids, whatever she's doing. And this is going on in his head. And he's egotistical and insecure enough of a guy to fall into that trap. And I feel
even a theory that she was pregnant.
I've never heard that theory. Is it? I haven't heard the pregnancy theory. But why he would flip, not because it's going to get him out of jail, but because he
Like
just
the satisfaction, like you said.
Like, what do I got? I mean, for what? She's out here living it up, and I'm in here for this. And he's already talking like he's already talking like she is the reason why all this happened in the first place. Zawaki says, did you see the security footage we found that shows that was another individual with Chris 100%? I don't think I have, Zawaki. I don't think I have. Yeah, if you could link to that, or if you wanted to jump on just to enlighten us about that, you're more than welcome. Just let us know. I'll
What's another
shoot you a link.
thing? I think this is just out of context, but from what I've seen online about Chris is starting to picture like the new. It's this really, really good looking Ted Bundy.
Who?
When I see footage of Chris or like pictures of him on social media, all the comments are of women like, so gorgeous, he's beautiful, blah, blah. I'm like, excuse me?
He don't look like that anymore.
No, I know.
He's gained significant weight. He's gained.
He's in jail.
Hostess cupcake level weight.
I don't know.
He's got a double chin.
Okay.
Ileana knows what that is.
Yeah, I know she does, but
I don't know if she does. Dominic knows what that is.
Well, Ted Bundy wasn't half as good looking when he died, but anyway.
Dominic will tell you all about the penis sleeves. All right, man. I'm having all right. You guys are taking me out of character.
Do that.
All right. So we talked about now. Here's where it starts to get fishy. No alibi. She has no alibi, no credible alibi. There's a significant gap in her phone activity on the morning of the murders, suggesting that she might have been involved. The further analysis of her phone records about over a month after the murder showed no activity near the crime scene. On the day that Shanann was found, not only does her phone ping at the Watts residence around 6 a.m. that morning, but she shows up late for work at Anadarko, like at 3 p.m. that afternoon. There was a neighbor who had reported seeing a truck similar to what Nicole owned at the time. They said that they saw it outside of the Watts family home. We know that happened. We mentioned the cell phone tower ping at 6:16 a.m. She lives like 25 minutes from there. There's no other reason for her to be there. The only other time we had pinged at that location was when she said that she went there, around the time when Shanann would have been gone on a family trip or business trip or whatever it was. No phone calls that day until about 2:26, which was unusual. Her phone activity every day Usually there is a phone call every hour upon the hour, some kind of text message, some kind of whatever, screwing around on the internet on your phone or whatever. But on that particular day, nothing until she gets pretty close. It's about to go to work. It's 2:26 a.m. Or p.m. And then that's it. What do you make about that? What's the explanation for phone silence where there's never been phone silence? And it just so happens to coincide with the date that Shanann Watts is reported missing and discovered, where they're investigating the what at that time they thought was a missing persons case. Comes to find out it turned into a murder case. How do you explain it, Melissa? Ileana, you are her defense attorney. Explain it to me.
Oh, God.
It makes me like I'm 5.
Oh, I would not wish you a client like that, Ileana.
I don't know. She was sick.
But she went to work.
Oh,
But
she went to work
and called her sex therapist, her sex cult leader, later that day. Oh, I didn't get to that part yet, did I?
No.
Let's talk about that guy.
She had a sex therapist?
73-year-old Rober of the Ordo,
And that's
Templi
a sex
and
therapist.
Ordinance, was I don't know, what do you call him? He was a leader of a sect that delved into sex magic. They had a membership that was based on an initiation system. There have been wayward theories out there that suggest that perhaps one of the initiation measures would have been to find a married man and get him to discard his family so that he chooses you, and then you could be a part of our group.
That explains everything. She gave him agua de calzón. That's why he did that.
What does that mean, Liana?
I don't know.
What of the California? Something of the
Colombian thing. Agua de calzón?
Yes.
What are we saying?
I don't know. Water from the pants?
Yeah.
That's a Colombian, I guess, slang thing. I don't know
Mexican
what it
and
means.
Central America people. So it's a thing that says that when you want a man to really, really love you and do everything for you, you take your panties, but it has to be used panties, and then you boil them, you put them in boiled water, and then you stir that for like an hour, and then
For all of my male listeners,
no, okay.
Oh my goodness.
all of my male
Do
listeners,
that. I'm just pointing it out. It's a real thing.
for all my male listeners, date Latino women at your own risk. I'm married to one. I'm just be careful. I don't know what the F Melissa's on about right now, but Jesus.
Hey, Latin people that are watching this, I know you know what I'm talking about. It's a real thing. I had no idea that was real until I moved here and I met Mexican people and they told me about it. We don't do that in Colombia. That's stupid. It's like, what?
Then why do you know? I am Mexican. How do you know about it? And I don't.
Hey, you're not Mexican.
I'm a gringo. I'm a gingroized. What am I trying to say?
You're a gringo married to a
I'm
Mexican.
Americanized version. Yeah.
Americanized.
Yeah, I'm very Americanized,
Nah.
to say the least. Okay, so Nicole calls Chris. All right, I'm getting. So yeah, there was a 73-year-old sex cult leader that she had contact with. She calls him. There was a guy named Jim. She meets him at her apartment at 501. She calls Chris twice, deletes the calls.
Mhm.
What? For what?
Maybe she was deleting her.
Amber
phone.
Fry wasn't deleting calls. She was like, take my phone, whatever you want, get this effing guy. She's deleting phone calls.
That's very
At
suspicious.
5:30, Chris calls her. She deletes that from her call log. It's something that she had never done before. And you have to know that at this point, she's aware that law enforcement is poking around over there. At 11:09 that night, there was a 51-minute phone call between her and Chris, deleted immediately. At 12:09 a.m., about an hour later, Chris called her back for about 31 minutes. At 1:12 a.m., Nicole calls Chris for 3 minutes. At 1:51 a.m., Chris calls Nicole. They talk for 8 minutes. And then at 1:58, Chris and the detective start playing phone tag. Every time he would call, his personal phone would have this dead air on his line. This would repeat for a while. And then Chris calls Nicole during this game of phone tag. They talk for less than a minute. About a minute later, Chris calls the detective back from his work phone, not his personal phone, from his work phone. And at that exact same time, he is having this conversation with the detective. Nicole called Chris's phone. It lasts for about 11 minutes. That's the last call between the two on record. And then she tries to destroy her SIM card. Eliana, you've been doing this show with me for a long time. Whenever we hear somebody destroys a SIM card, what is always the reason behind it?
You're guilty.
You're hiding something. You're
If they're not outright accused of something, they are suspected of doing something.
Mhm.
And it's always the case when there is a suspicion of some kind of wayward activity that SIM cards get destroyed. Think the Karen Reed case. This case, obviously. All right.
What does that sound?
It's because I got to get to some of these super chats that I keep neglecting. All right, I did these ones already. Zwaki says that I'd love to join you if that's right. Yeah, I'm going to send Zawaki a link. If you don't give me 30 seconds, folks, I gotta invite Zawaki to join. Hey, Dominic, tell me a story.
Japan was beautiful.
Tell me about how beautiful Japan was.
Amazing, man.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here.
Very good, so clean. But I'll tell you one thing. People always say that Japanese people are very polite. I mean, from my experience, they were, but to an extent.
Hey, you know what, Dominic? Do me a favor and coordinate this with Zawaki. Get him a link if you can. I don't know why.
His email or I'll just ask.
Yeah, if you could do get his info. We'll get him on the show. I'm trying to look for it in my email. For whatever reason, I'm not finding it. Okay, so there's these suspicious phone calls. There was a point where Nicole was inquiring about unsafe medication that you shouldn't be taking while you're pregnant because it would induce a miscarriage.
Oxycontin, wasn't it?
What was that, Eliana?
Oxycontin.
Yeah, it was Oxycontin. So Chris told detectives that he initially tried to subdue Shanann with Oxycontin.
Mm-hmm.
He later said in subsequent letters that he gave her that because he thought it would be easier to be with Nicole if Shanann was not pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So this is they obviously coordinated together. It was never established how it was obtained. He told detectives that where he got Oxycontin, it was a secret he would take with him to his grave. There were some allegations that Nicole was on the phone with Chris and a clinic and Chris again while he was trying to get these prescription Oxycontin pills to give to Shanann, but I haven't seen that corroborated anywhere. But it's been a theory out there that I've seen floating around. Nicole had trouble remembering specifics of dates and conversations with Chris that you wouldn't forget. Like when the last time you had a 2-hour conversation with anybody, Melissa?
When I was planning my bachelor.
You just had a 5-hour FaceTime with
It
your
was
husband.
not 5 hours. That was in 2017.
I saw 5 hours. Jesus.
A 2-hour conversation with somebody was when I was planning my planning my bachelor party.
That would
That
be
was
so boring.
back in September, so that was a year ago.
I could plan a bachelor party in 5 minutes. I'm going to talk to you for 2 hours for.
For a guy, of course. It's pretty simple.
All right, where we're going to go? We're going to go here, and then we're going to go there, and then that. And who's invited? Done. Finished. We don't have to ruminate over the details.
You're gonna die.
All right. So she's having trouble remembering dates. Nicole mentioned Chris's frustration with their financial situation. Nicole starts talking shit about Shanann's materialistic lifestyle.
I love when you say that, and then us girls have this super planned itinerary with stuff like that. Dates and everything, and color coordinated outfits and all that.
Yeah, with us it was like, hey, we're going to Descargas. We're going to this nightclub at 11. You're gonna be there? All right, be there. We'll figure it out then. That's what we did.
My type A personality could never.
I happen to have a type A personality,
No,
and
you
so
don't.
does Ileana.
Mhm.
I'm just type A about selective things, you know?
When I see those posts of people like, I'm taking my wife on a surprise trip, she doesn't know where I am, I would be having so much anxiety if my husband ever pulled that on me. My mind would twist everything up to the point of seeing things wherever I'm not seeing them, just to find out where I'm going.
I'll tell you know what? You need to calm your tits. We're going where we're going. You're going to have a good time.
No.
Enough with that.
No. My mind, I would not sleep for days until I'm there. Where would he be taking me?
Zawaki, how you doing, sir? We got the legendary Zawaki in here. Mr.
Hello,
Hughes,
hello.
Hey.
I'm so glad that you joined. Now, you've been on this case since, I don't know how long.
October of 23.
All right. So October 23, you've been on this case and you've been vehemently pursuing an additional investigation of Nichol Kessinger. And you've taken a lot of flack from it, from people that, oh, just give it up and you're obsessed and whatever. You're not even the only one. Like there's numerous people out there that are looking for the same thing. And now I had told you last time I was on your show, I don't know, it was like a couple months ago, that I thought that the only way that you're going to get an investigation into Nicole was with new evidence. And you asked, well, what is that going to look like? And I told you it's going to come from one of two places. It's either going to come from Watts himself, which is obviously going to be biased because I'm not sure how many people are going to actually believe, oh, it was Nicole the whole time, when 6 years ago saying that he was the only one. And so that would be one place. The other place I said it might pop up is, so Nicole is trying to live this single life and she happens to be at some kind of a bar and she's shooting the breeze with some random guy. And then she's, maybe 4 doubles too deep. She's maybe at 0.22 and she's having a moment of a severe existential crisis because she has this guilt and she just starts rambling to some unsuspecting guy who then takes that information, alerts authorities and says, hey, I don't know if this means anything to you, but I met this lady and this is what she told me. Maybe I'll want to follow up. And then that might lead to some kind of subsequent investigation. So I've been running through, and I know that you know this case like the back of your hand. So I don't know if I put you to sleep with all these details that we've been going over hundreds of times. But based on the new stuff that has come out, based on Christopher Watts's letters to some of his fangirls, I guess you could call them, what do you think about the veracity of those statements as a guy that's been pursuing this harder than anybody else?
I mean, like you said, I mean, he could literally sit there and say that, oh yeah, she was involved and she was there. Are we going to believe it? Probably not, because this man has lied how many different times and different confessions and so forth. And it's going to take, like we talked about last time, it's going to take the DA or a DA that's not DA Rourke to actually look into it, that actually wants to look into it. The DA Rourke doesn't want to look into this. He said it multiple times. He has no
case
desire.
Him, right? I don't even think, is he still the DA up there, or did he get reelected?
He is. The reelection is in November of this year.
Okay, so it's forthcoming. So he's not. Imagine if he were to admit that, hey, we dropped the ball with Nichol Kessinger, what that would mean to his reelection prospects. He's not doing anything before November. No chance. But I know that you did a video about a month ago, like in July or something, about how Chris is doing in prison. People are after him. People are they want to get their hands on him. Imagine of the number of people who are in danger: child molesters, people that kill women and children, violent rapists. Those are the ones that are most at risk, and he hits, at least one of those categories multiple times. I heard, well, I didn't hear. There was a People article, an article from people.com. They used to be a magazine. Now they're a website. I don't know if they still have a magazine, but they had mentioned that Chris, he became aware of the Netflix documentary. There was no indication that he's actually seen the documentary, but he was having a hard time with his portrayal in it. They say that Chris Watts The man who murdered his pregnant wife and 2 daughters is aware of the explosive new Netflix documentary about his infamous case, and a source tells people that it brings back a lot of shame. Who the source is, I'm not sure, but I'm fairly certain it's probably one of his former cellmates. The documentary entitled American Murder, The Family Next Door began streaming on Netflix on September 30th. It includes rarely seen text messages and letters between Watts and his wife. Everybody, I know that, Swak, you've seen all those texts. I've seen all those texts. They're heartbreaking to read. Goes on to say, he can't see it. He'll probably never see it because they don't have Netflix in prison. I hope they don't.
He's got a TV.
I mean, does he get like channels 2, 4, 5, 7, 9? Is it like antenna TV?
Yeah, it's antenna TV.
Because that like stopped existing like in 2004, I want to say.
The bunny ears.
Yeah, is he getting like the poltergeist snow or whatever?
He's probably able to see the elections and probably PBS.
Yeah, maybe they get like MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. Maybe they get the news channels, whatever. I don't know. Some people have it better than others, depending on where they're situated. So, says he can't see it, he'll probably never see it. He's curious about it, but he hates even knowing that his texts are out there for the public to read. It brings back awful memories of 2018 for him. My response to that is F that guy. Does that make him uncomfortable? Does it make him uncomfortable? I hope it does. I hope that he has nightmares about this every night for the rest of his life. I hope that the ghosts of his children and Shanann, just for shits and giggles, are tormenting him in his sleep in every waking moment that he has. I hope that he's severely uncomfortable by what has transpired in this case. The article goes on to state that Watts was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. 2 years later, he's housed at the Dodge Correctional Institution, a maximum security prison in Waupun, Wisconsin. Documentary paints a picture of a marriage that was falling apart and alleges that while Shanann was ready to fight to save their union, I'll tell you what, I was watching this documentary with my wife. I want to say that I remember watching it with her when, I don't know, maybe in 22 or 23. But she had asked me a question because there was something in the documentary about this guy had dreams about annihilating his family. And then she asked me if I had ever had any dreams like that. And I was like, not even remotely approaching that. No, that'd be like the worst of nightmares. I've never had any thoughts or any dreams that even closely resembled anything that could be considered something like that.
That sounds like the question, like, would you love me if I was a crayon? It's one of those.
Oh, she asked me that. Would you love me if I was a worm? No. I'd probably throw you over the fence or eat the fish. No, I would not love you if you were a worm. For obvious reasons, you're a worm. And then, I don't know. She asked me, would you love me if I was a penis? Like, no, because you would be a penis. I would not love you. There'd be no amorous feelings towards you whatsoever. And then she's like, well, at least you're honest. Very much so. We'll see of course I would not. What kind of stupid question is that? So like when we were dating for like I don't know, however many months. It was less than a year. Why did girls ask those kinds of stupid questions?
Don't ask me. I've never done it.
Well, good on you. So he's uncomfortable about this documentary. What do you think, Zawaki? Could I call you Nick?
Yeah, that's fine.
Zawaki is weird to say.
My dad still pronounces it wrong too, so it's okay.
What is the significance behind Zawaki?
What's the significance behind it? It's something that I came up with that was completely easy to look up. So I wouldn't get familiarized with anybody else's name or anything like that. I wanted to be unique.
Did you just tell me to Google it, bitch? I'm Googling it right now.
I like
your name.
I like the letter Z, and I was watching Star Wars one day, and I saw the Ewoks. Somehow Z and the Ewoks became to Zawoki. I don't know how that came.
Oh, you know what, man? I've been wanting to show my daughters Star Wars and the Ewoks and all. And but I saw Spaceballs, and so I showed them that. Spaceballs is their introduction to Star Wars. What's up, Ileana? How you doing?
I'm here.
She's just sitting there like, what in the F are they talking about, man? What do you guys? Okay, Ileana, I got to ask you this question. There's these fangirls that write to Chris to say that, oh, I know what they're saying about you, but I know that you're a good person, and I know that you're a caring person, and all this kind of stuff. And they're writing like, I want to have a relationship with this guy. They're sending pictures of themselves, like in some cases in the nude. I don't know how that makes it past the prison filters, but they say that this is what they're doing, and they're like requesting attention or a relationship with this guy. What is the mentality that goes behind a woman pursuing something like that?
Well, from what I've read and seen in shows, I mean, there's like a whole group of women that they just like the prisoners, but for various reasons. Some people think that they're gonna be able to change or turn around this person into a good person. There's others, which I think is one of the most common ones, is that you can have a relationship with someone, but then you don't have a lot of the things that are not that easy to deal with, such as having somebody in the house, having to cook for them, live with them, I don't know, do laundry.
But like the thing that you're fixing is he murdered his whole family.
Well,
Is there
there's
not, like, a red flag
people
there?
that don't have the time for that. And then there's also the people that have issues with controlling the other and knowing that that person is in prison and they can't really do anything else other than be there. They're not going to be with other women.
It's like that one
That's
guy that was pursued. They
That's
got married with Gypsy Rose. Remember when we talked about that one?
Yeah, exactly. There's people that like that, but there's many reasons. But I think those are like the top ones that I've read or heard about. And it's a whole thing. And like Melissa said, I don't know how he looks like right now, but in the beginning, I mean, he wasn't like a Brad Pitt or anything like that, but he wasn't ugly. He's a good looking guy when everything happened. So I can see how these women that look into prisoners were like all smitten with him.
I have heard that Christopher Watts has put on a hostess cupcake weight.
Okay, right.
I've heard that he has a double chin.
Well, that prison food definitely does add on to the layers.
I mean, I don't know what the nutritional value is. Melissa, you had some opinions about this. It sounded like you wanted to be heard. And now I'm giving you the opportunity. Speak on whatever your heart desires. What do you think about these women that are pursuing these?
What I said is like, why did you ask Ileana that? That's a nasty question.
Because she's in the Jesus Christ. All right, moving right along.
I mean, there's real weird women all around.
I'm just trying to get it. Look, I didn't understand why you all are looking at what dresses for a couple hours for fun. So imagine my fascination when there's women that are thinking they're going to change a Christopher Watts or a Ted Bundy or a Wade Wilson or all of these other guys that are, having these letters written to them. I don't understand it. I don't.
I think they try to think that they can save him or give him an out, or that they know that he's not going to cheat on them because he's stuck in prison. So it's not like he's going to be with a woman because he's got how many dudes around there.
Could I just say this? He's going to cheat on you. Could I say something else? He got a boyfriend.
Probably.
He's got a boyfriend. He was bunking up
me.
So you cannot pay me enough to volunteer in such shenanigans.
I would die in prison.
It's suspected that he has multiple boyfriends in prison. He's all the rage in prison cells, I suspect he's a bottom.
Or he has the prisoner boyfriends for
protection.
Yeah.
Yep. I was just thinking that
he's shacking up to that guy, and what's that Reacher, Jack Reacher, that guy. He's shacking up with people for protection. He's in fear for his life. Make no mistake about that. He's like one of the big three of people that are in danger in prison. If he ever got in a gen pop, Jesus Christ, that guy needs to be watched 24/7. It's not worth it to watch him, man. Just let him out. See what happens. Maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it'll be fine. Let me read to you this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but from one of his bunkmates, it says that he gets a lot of letters. He got a lot of letters at first. Many of them are from women who thought He was handsome, felt compassion for him. He had nothing better to do, so he wrote them back. And he started having pen pals. A couple of them stood out, and they kept in contact. They have compassion on him despite what he did. It goes on to say, when I first saw your very first interview, I was like, OMG, I have to get to know this guy. She says that in her heart, she believes everything he says, and finishes the letter with, Team Chris. Chris is innocent. Love him. So cute.
So
Dad's
cute.
out there. Hey,
Well,
Sounds
Nick,
like a 2-year-old.
I'm just
first
gonna-
handsome is Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. That's handsome. But I'm just saying, like, these people that think that he's innocent, it's almost, I can't say it's a mental illness because I'm not a doctor in this, but it's almost like they like the bad boy. They like the idea that he was known for this, and they think that they could get into there and possibly be involved in some shape or form.
I guess I wish them the best. I mean, what do I even say to that, man? Could I just say that if one of my daughters were to, God forbid, send a letter like that to some guy that's sitting there in prison for murdering their family, I've failed as a father.
Amen to that one.
Say that unequivocally. I would be so beyond disappointed and like probably introspective about my failures as a dad. That's all I really got to say about that. So people have been clamoring to hear what Kessinger has had to say on all of this. He once gave an interview way back in, like, I want to say, was it 2020, 2021? I bet you're familiar with this, Nick, but it was reported in this in people.com that Watt's mistress breaks silence about their affair. Kessinger goes on to say that he's a liar. He lied about everything. The mistress of admitted triple murderer Chris Watts said she was tricked into believing he was a loving father, finalizing a divorce, and had no idea his wife was 15 weeks pregnant until she had their 2 daughters go missing in August, which is nonsense. Nick, you know that's nonsense. I know that's nonsense because we got the receipts from the Facebook searches where she was seeing the pictures of Father's Day when Shanann was praising him for being such a great dad and all these other things. Kessinger says he's a liar. He lied about everything. It's the first time Kessinger spoke out about her relationship with Watts, who pled guilty earlier this month to August murders of his wife, nearly 6 years, 34-year-old Shanann Watts, and their daughters Bella and Cece, 4 and 3, who today would be 10 and 9.
11. Yeah, 10 and 9.
An arrest affidavit reveals Watts was having an affair with, and you guys know all this stuff. Kessinger says we had just met. She said the two had started a physical relationship in early July, but were taking it slow and never spoke about long-term plans. I suspect that is bullshit of the nth degree. There's no chance they weren't talking about long-term plans. She was, okay, you guys kind of took the steam out of my argument. It was like, my whole thing is that nobody's looking for wedding dresses for a couple of hours if they're not planning on getting married.
You need to get over it.
You guys like, oh no, because they're pretty, and so we just do that.
I just thought we were gonna still do it.
Jesus.
There's a difference in talking about long term and thinking about long term. Maybe she was thinking about long term, but they never had a conversation about it.
Exactly.
She knew about their life insurance policies. That's
What else did she know about their finances, Nick?
she knew about their daycare finances. She knew that they were in the hole. She knew about their car payments. She knew about how much Shanann was making at Lavelle. Things that you would probably not tell anybody. But he told her because he felt comfortable.
You wouldn't bring that up to a side piece.
I want to have a side piece.
You wouldn't bring that up to somebody you were casually dating.
I mean, even if I was casually dating, which it's been a while since I've been in the game 10 years ago, but I mean, I don't tell, my fiance now, didn't tell her about my 401k and all that stuff until almost 2 years in.
Yeah, that seems like a 2 years in conversation, or like at least where we have like a wedding date or something.
Unless he was trying to like show off that, oh, I got this, I got that, kind of upping himself.
Right. And so anyway, she gives this interview, and it's just this kind of the same garbage that she was feeding to law enforcement when she was being interrogated those couple of times that she was back in 18. And so there's not much to read about here, but what's more interesting to me is why I think that Chris is ready to flip. So there was this other new account, which admittedly, as much as I've covered this case, I've heard this theorized, I've just never seen it put this way. I didn't realize that this version of events was out there, where Chris just gives a new recounting of how he took out his family. He says, August 13th, morning of, I went to the girls' room first before Shanann and I had our argument. I went to Bella's room, then Cece's room, and used a pillow from their bed to kill them. That's why the cause of death was smothering, which is stupid because that wasn't the cause of death, and they weren't dead after that. And so he's an idiot. Never mind. That's why anyway, after I left Cece's room, when I climbed back in bed with Shanann and our argument ensued, after Shanann had passed, Bella and Cece woke back up. I'm not sure how they woke back up, but they did. Bella's eyes were bruised, and both girls looked like they had been through trauma. That made the act that much worse, knowing I went to the rooms first and knowing I still took their lives at the location of the batteries. August 12th, when I finished putting the girls to bed, I walked away and said, that's the last time I'm going to be tucking my babies in. I knew what was going to happen the day before, and I did nothing to stop it. So on August 11th, doesn't that coincide with the last time that he went to the Lazy Dog Bar and Grill with Kessinger? Doesn't that fit that timeline, Nick? Am I wrong?
So that's what the Lazy Dog was. That's what the 111-minute phone call was. The planning, going over everything. You can't tell me that it was phone sex. There's no way. 111 minutes.
There's phone sex is not that interesting. Not 111 minutes worth.
It sounds exhausting.
I don't know, because Melissa just showed me a 5-hour FaceTime she had with her husband, and I'm like, for what?
She's not gonna get over it.
For 5 hours for what, man?
Well, she's probably upset because she didn't get her Fiji water, so you got to put that in there.
Yeah, but now I'm getting my
scam. I will not
gave it to us.
I will not submit to the Fiji water.
This is my water. This is my beautiful water that I like. So,
all right, moving on.
I did want to tell you about that Vivint security system if you wanted to know about it.
Yeah, by all means.
So recently I'm because pretty much when you told me to get creative, like it really stuck with me. So I'm like literally going through, I'm listening to things he might say. I literally have hired a psychologist to do this with me and so forth. And then we kind of went through and found this video from Amber from ATS News. If you've ever watched her, great channel. She found out that the security system that Vivint was in the home found that when Chris was leaving the home, the inside garage door, the one that access to the mudroom, opened while Chris was gone.
No shit.
And that the basement door also opened up at that time. And when it closed, it stayed closed until 12:47, which is when Nicole Atkinson tried pounding on the door or the garage door to see where Shanann was. The door was open at 12:47 when she had left Nicole Atkinson. And Chris admitted that the way to get into the house, it's super easy. All you have to do is hit a latch on the window and you were able to enter into the basement. He literally said it in his interrogation interview, which leaves me to believe that when he left, Nichol Kessinger's way out was the basement, but she never left because she was cleaning up everything that was inside. And that when Nicole Atkinson left, she had left because there are people that said a woman left after Nicole Atkinson had left. Nobody could pinpoint who she was.
Was this around the same time that her cell phone had pinged in that area?
which was at 6:15 that morning, which Chris left.
And he was gone. So nobody should have been opening anything. There's nobody live in the house.
Nobody was alive in the house, but yet those two doors opened when Chris was gone.
Yeah, that's I'd never heard that evidence before. That's crazy. That's you're just stacking bricks. Now you're just stacking bricks. There's something going on with this Kessinger lady, man. I don't know. Look, you have Chris Watts admitting that he had planned the murders on August 11th. They had went to the Lazy Dog Bar and Grill on August 11th. They had a 111-minute phone call conversation that night. Her phone is pinging at the residence on the 13th. You got doors opening and closing around the time where Watts would have been gone. Am I wrong in saying that shouldn't somebody be able to connect those dots and ask deeper questions? I didn't see any of that evidence anywhere in the discovery. That's new stuff to me, to my ears anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was sick with COVID for a week last week, so I had nothing but time.
Oh, I would so love to be sick with COVID just so I could just isolate myself for a week.
I literally sat there one day and I listened to Nichol Kessinger's all her interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to Chris Watts' interrogation, which he had stated, even in there, he said, we had the shovel, we had the rake, we dug the hole. Who's we?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. But that's the kind of stuff that launches investigations. You know what I mean? And so he's saying all of that stuff. By the way, so here is the full. He's writing to this lady named Sherilyn. Sherilyn had pen palled him up. This is what he says: "Dear Sherilyn, hello again. Hope you're doing well. It has been awesome talking with you on the phone, but I know the 15-minute time frame is a pain. Sometimes I can get right back on the phone, but right now there are other inmates that like to be on the phone as much as I do, so I respect their time as well. How's your dad doing? I've been praying on that every day. Yes, that petition really blew my mind that people really want to make me suffer like that, even if they didn't ever take my pictures. They can't take my memories. An inmate from another institution wrote me about that subject and said, if they take your pictures, they would need to take the pictures from the other 500 to 600 people that have their family pictures up on their cell, convicted of the same act. Do I feel like I should be incarcerated for the act I committed? I most definitely think so. Do I imagine myself ever doing anything like this or be a danger to society? I most definitely think not. If I were to ever be released, I know I would go straight to a ministry and start going to jails, prisons, and help inmates. F off, man. This guy's disgusting. If God led me to be ordained, I would.
God. Oh my God.
I would go that route as well. Possibly even be a chaplain. Maybe the laws will change one day. My attorney team could see I was different and knew that this was a one-time occurrence for me. They told me that in Europe, the law is I would serve 20 years or so for homicide. And in California, after 25 years of imprisonment on a life sentence, you can be released if you've had good behavior. So there's hope for everyone to live outside prison walls. I know physically I'm behind these walls, but my spirit is free with Christ.
You should have found Jesus before.
It's just,
Yeah, you should have approached him before.
I have such visceral feelings reading this. If God led me to be ordained, I would go that route. Did I read that? If God keeps putting it on your heart that there is more to the story than what I told the FBI has, you're correct. I don't like saying stuff like that over the phone because I'm never certain when they screen my calls. Every single time, dipshit, Jesus.
They're recorded every time.
Yeah, I know. I already told you the vision I had before August 13th when I was lying in bed and all the lights were on in the loft and downstairs and I felt so alone. That's exactly what happened April 14th when I was lying in bed. I don't know if you want this in the book or if God, by the way, that book got like a 1-star rating on Amazon, so read at your own peril. Or if God does, but here are the things I left out. Number one, August 12th, when I finished putting the girls to bed, I walked away and said, that's the last time I'm going to be tucking my babies in. I knew what was going to happen the day before, and I did nothing to stop it. I was numb to the entire world. I had literally taken my kids to a birthday party, played with water balloons, had an amazing time, sang songs all the way home, gave them bath, a shower, ate dinner, read bedtime stories, sang bedtime songs, and still nothing registered. When Shanann had to be somewhere, I always enjoyed taking the girls places or playing outside because it was our opportunity to bond. And still, the night before, I couldn't stop myself from what I knew would occur the next morning. August 13th, morning of, I went to the girls' room first. Before Shanann and I had our argument, I went to Bella's room, then Cece's room, used a pillow from their bed to kill them. That's why the cause of death was smothering. After I left Cece's room, then I climbed back in bed with Shanann, and our argument ensued. I no longer believe that they had an argument. I think he just straight up tried to kill her.
Yeah.
After Shanann had passed, Bella and Cece woke back up. I'm not sure how they woke back up, but they did. Bella's eyes were bruised, and both girls looked like they had been through trauma. That made the act that much worse, knowing I went to their rooms first and knowing I still took their lives at the location of the batteries. The reason the medical examiner found oxycodone in Shanann's system is because I gave it to her. I thought it would be easier to be with Nicole if Shanann wasn't pregnant. I don't know if this was a spiritual visit, but I had a dream. Cece was dancing next to the chair in my cell. When she was dancing, all of my folders on the chair started moving, and I thought she was in trouble. So I said, "Watch out, get away, watch out." Then I woke up. I'm hoping she comes back. I hope everyone comes to visit me. I'm trying to see if I can clear my head better before I go to sleep to help. I like that John 10:10 passage you sent. I wish I could have had an open ear to hear the Lord calling me back in June, July, August. If we run after sin, we won't hear our shepherd calling us. I couldn't discern between the good spirits and the evil spirits, and that eventually lodged me into a deep pit I couldn't climb back out of. Take care. God bless. Chris.
He did say that God came to him, that he was looking at the pictures of his family inside the house, but yet lust is what won, because that's all he thought about was Nicole.
Well, this next article from the New York Post kind of gets into him starting to perhaps turn the tide. He's now identified Nichol Kessinger as the Jezebel that has led him astray. He uses a lot of religious euphemisms, ideologies to come up with his new theory. But this is what he says, and this is what it says in the New York Post. Killer dad Chris Watts is blaming his former mistress for his decision to brutally murder his wife and two little girls, and only refers to her as Jezebel. If you're not familiar with, do you guys know who Jezebel is? It's a biblical figure that essentially led a man astray to do all kinds of nefarious things in the Bible. I don't want to get too much into it, but that's essentially what it is.
Wait, repeat the name?
Jezebel. It's in the Bible. It's a biblical name.
What is that?
What was that?
Jezebel. 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 I knew somebody by that name, which is strange.
It's a biblical term. It comes out of the Old Testament. It refers to
it's like a siren type of
like this
a lustful woman
that leads you astray, appealing to the prurient interests. That's to get you to do nefarious things. Is essentially what a Jezebel is. If your husband were to be wooed by some woman, you might call her a Jezebel because she would be in the practice actively destroying your family.
I would call her something else. Okay.
All right.
I'll take the name.
But some people, Jezebel is a term that's used to refer to stuff like that. Anyway, so the Post had obtained several handwritten notes from the 39-year-old Watts. He's 39 now. Jesus. Who was serving. Young? I mean, he was 33 when it happened.
And Nicole was 20 something.
Nicole was
29, I do believe.
Yeah, 29. By the way, Zawaki tells me that, well, I don't know what Zawaki tells me, but she may or may not be significantly overweight herself by now.
I have pictures.
So
I have,
Walkie's got
picture,
all the deets, man.
I have pictures from a month ago.
I'd ask you to share those pictures, but I don't want to get you in trouble, man.
Yeah, the reason why, I mean, I'm glad that the person sent me them, but at the same time, I can't do anything with them
Yeah.
because legally, again, like I told people, I'm like, I don't care where she lives. I don't care what she does. I just want the law enforcement to actually question her. That's all. But this person keeps sending me that is friends with her.
I guess that, you know what, Nick? That was another thing that I told you. There's going to be some friend of hers that's going to turn on her. And to the extent that she offers confessions to these so-called friends, that might be her undoing. It may.
She, like you said, she could end up getting a little tipsy and accidentally leak it, but who knows?
Who knows, man? So the posts, we talk about the handwritten notes, and one letter dated March of 2020, Watts wrote a prayer of confession. So I'm pretty sure I got the whole letter. Yeah, it's right here. How do I make this? How do I embiggen this? All right. I'm just going to read it because I'm not sure if it's going to, I could share my screen. You know what? I'll just share my screen and see if that makes it any better. So this is the handwritten note that he wrote. I'll make
this one.
Yeah. So it says, Dear Heavenly Father.
Oh my, no, I can't listen to this.
You don't have to. It's cool. I have backslidden. I'm like a sheep gone astray from the flock and have fallen into a pit. The snare of the enemy has entrapped me. The words of a harlot. Are you familiar with that term, a harlot? It essentially means a whore.
My ex-wife.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry. Did I say that out loud?
You sure did.
Say it again?
Never mind. Okay. He says the words of a harlot have brought me low. Her flattering speech was like drops of honey that pierced my heart and soul. Little did I know, all her sweets were in the chamber of death. The lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. How did I not see it? How did I leave? How did I let this happen? The blessings you have bestowed upon me were right in front of me, and still I followed the perfume of a strange woman. The web of the enemy squeezes around my heart and is something to my soul, illegible, my soul, to the point of suffocation. The enemy and his Jezebel mock and scourge me as they celebrate another capture. But, oh, that man would praise the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. You, O Lord, did not leave me captive, or condemned. You heard the prayer of the destitute and of the prisoner appointed to death. You opened my eyes. You made my ears ready to perceive. And you said, come forth. The web of death loosened its grip, and I walked into the light of your presence. As I humbly kneeled before you, you said, go and sin no more. Your faith has made you whole. In Jesus' precious name, amen. This is his prayer. I was just going to say, this guy has been reading like Psalms and Song of Solomon and Proverbs. And he's literally quoting these scriptures, Psalm, Proverbs. John. No, he could not have. He's regurgitating bullshit that he read out of the Old Testament. That is not what a poet is. A poet is more creative than that. He's just regurgitating bullshit that he heard out of the Bible that he's not even reading. Did you just tell me to breathe?
Yes, calm down.
He's giving an excuse for his murders and to get the light off of him by blaming his Jezebel in scripture to make it look like he is humanistic.
Yeah. And so throughout his entire incarceration, he's never risen to the level of directly implicating Nicole.
It's amazing how when guys cheat, they turn to God and they blame it all on their Jezebel.
No. I'm not going to say that all men that cheat do that. All men that get caught do that.
Exactly.
Or real men don't cheat.
Exactly. And specifically, this guy is sitting there in a jail cell, and he's never once taken responsibility, as far as I can tell, for what he's done ever. I can't tell you, I cannot explain to you how difficult it is for me to cover this case because my daughters are so close in age to Cece and Bella. They're 4 and 5 now, but just last year they were 3 and 4. And my daughters are so smart, man. It's my daughter Olivia this morning. I was lightweight yelling at Evelyn to brush her teeth. Not yelling, saying, Evelyn, let's go right now. And then Olivia starts
You were
going.
using your big voice.
I was using my big. Oh, I'm gonna tell you about the big voice. Olivia was like, roar, roar. I'm like, Olivia, what are you doing? It's like, I'm roaring like a lion to protect my sister because of your big voice. So cute.
Oh my God. I could not get mad at that.
Oh, they're so like that, man. Sometimes I'll use my big voice. It's like, hey, Olivia, I want you to change into your clothes, change in your pajamas. I'm gonna count to 3. 1, 2, and then
That's a
she's
big
all teary-eyed, and she's like, Dad, it makes me sad when you use your big voice. It's like, well, I used the little voice and you weren't listening. But
That's
they're
not
just
very birth control, like, no.
they're just so intuitive. Oh, that makes you want to have kids. That
It's
you
like
want
when
that?
I see pictures of little Alondra, it's just so cute.
Oh, Ileana's little one that keeps getting Ileana sick.
I know. She's so cute, but look at me now today, all stuffy nose because of her.
I know. I was telling Ileana, I was like, your immune system has not strengthened itself yet. It kind of has to, because your child is a petri dish of germs. Jesus.
All kids are when you send them to daycare. It's just like
Notice how
germs.
I'm never sick ever. My kids like bring home all the germs. I'm never sick. Never, ever, ever. If
know
I
what?
tell you I'm sick,
You
I'm
know what he
bullshitting.
tells me when I sneeze or something? Melissa, are you sick? And I'm like, no, get the fuck out of here. What do you mean?
Leave. Forthwith.
You know the picture of Sheldon when he like puts this and he starts like putting Lysol? That's him. Leave.
Like, no, I got shit to do. Do it by yourself. Go home. Oh, I don't know, man. But my daughters are so smart and they're so cute. They're just so intuitive. I mean, these little girls are human beings. They were like, my girls just last year were 3 and 4 years old, and they're just like little shits, little people. And they have like all this excitement about life. I know I said little shits, but I say it in love. They're just
I know what you're. I know.
the fact this case keeps getting worse and worse, because I really believed at first that, I mean, I thought I was holding steadfast to his initial theory to the FBI. It's like, well, I don't have any other reason to believe otherwise. I don't know how I'd never read his other confession about, no, I tried to smother the girls first, and then it went into Shanann's room. So my opinion of it now is like, this was planned. It's more obvious to me now that this was planned. This was planned at least on August 11th. Perhaps probably going forward. I think the seeds of it were dropped when Shanann was gone on a trip, and when he invited her over to the family residence to have sex in the marital bed and to drive Shanann's car. And then she realized, as I cross-examined you, so how does it feel to be the side piece? Doesn't that suck? Like, he's got his whole other queen over here and he's just messing around with you. Like, once he's done with you, doesn't it hurt to know that he's just done with you? You know that he don't really like you, right? Not all that much. He's got a whole wife and kids. And my whole goal in cross-examining you that way was to draw your ire, to suggest that you had a motive to plant a seed into Christopher Watt's head to perhaps execute a plan to annihilate his family, because that's where the motive would have stood with a jury. That would have been the time. That would have been the black and white division of timelines between, oh, this is just a casual dating thing, to, hey, this is an egotistical thing. And I need to feed my ego, and I need to get rid of those kids in Shanann. Even if not having the most devious of thoughts, even if not anticipating that he would ever murder his family, that was what planted the seed that grew into what it became. And that's how you could connect the dots to a motive, and the rest of it you could connect to the execution of a premeditated plan dating back to at least August 11th, where you might potentially be able to bring her up on charges of conspiracy to commit murder and perhaps get a conviction. Now, Zawacki has been diligent in his quest to be creative, and he has unlocked further evidentiary stuff that I didn't even think existed. To the extent that all of those things that Zawacki said is true, there is grounds right now to have an eye on Kessinger, regardless of whether or not she is in protective custody. Whether or not it actually becomes a full-on investigation is dependent upon Christopher Watts flipping on Nicole. He hasn't gone there yet, but he's gone so far as to call her a Jezebel and a whore. We're just waiting for the final hammer to drop, where he just declares that, you know what? I didn't murder her. I was possessed by the demon that is Nichol Kessinger. And at that point, you may have...
I was possessed by the WAP.
By the WAP. At that point, you may have a viable evidentiary path towards a criminal charge, which may become a viable path towards a conviction. Are you going to get her for first-degree murder? I don't know, man. But can you maybe get her for conspiracy? That depends on whether or not you believe the seed that was planted back when she visited the Watts residence was tantamount to calling for her murder, as opposed to asking Chris to leave his wife and kids. That's going to be the major hurdle. So if a jury believes that, look, okay, she might have been all egotistical about it and everything, but I don't think that she meant to kill anybody. This dipshit just did that. If a jury believes that actually the plan was set in stone on August 11th, and it was Christopher Watts, who's not the sharpest tool in the shed. That guy, if anything else, is dumb as rocks.
He's a puppet.
He's a puppet. He's a regurgitator. I can't even call him a... It's funny, Melissa's about to call him a poet. It's like, dipshit. That's like just regurgitating shit out of the Old Testament.
I was going to call him a what?
A poet. He's just repeating stuff that he read.
He could have been really good. I never said he was.
Well,
It's like somebody that starts reading and all of a sudden they start writing, and it's like 90% stuff that they've already read. That's not what creative writing is.
the book that him and Dylan Talman wrote first, all it was scripture rewrote into what they wanted. It wasn't even anything important.
You know, Nick, I used to have designs on being a writing professor. Before I was ever an attorney, I wanted to get an English degree because I wanted to teach English and creative writing in college. I went the way of a lawyer, and I've suffered the consequences ever since. But I could recognize bullshit when I read it.
If you would have heard his story becoming a lawyer from his mouth, the face I'm doing right now.
What was my story about becoming a writer?
Remember? You were like, oh yeah, I was working for somebody, and then they told me I should take the LSAT, and I was training to take the GRE, and you were like, I'm gonna fail. And then he took it, and then he got a really good score, so he got a full-time scholarship. He's like, whatever, I'll just enroll. Maybe I won't do it by the first year. And then he got through, and then he went, nah, maybe I won't graduate. And then he did, and then he's like, maybe I won't pass the bar. I'll just become a cop. And then it happened, and he's like,
what was your score for the LSATs?
163.
He was like, what happened? Like, how did I fall into this? And I was like, you were literally telling me, like, I fell into it. I was like, no, you didn't. Yeah, I felt like
that's exactly what happened. I wasn't gonna be a lawyer, man. I was taking the LSAT for fun. I mean, not for fun, but like, screw it, I'll take the LSAT, whatever. And I took it. But what happened was I took a practice test, and I scored so poorly on it that my ego was bruised.
you got mad.
And I got mad. I got to studying, and then I got a 163, and then I got a scholarship. It's like, well, it happened exactly how Melissa described. But notice how I was studying for the GRE because I wanted to be a PhD in English. because I
You
wanted to
wanna
be
go
a writing
graduate.
professor. And so when I read these writing excerpts from Chris Watts, like, oh, this is just so bad. It's so bad. He's regurgitating shit he read out of the Old Testament. This is just not what writing is. I used to do these writing exercises with my daughter, Raven, where it's like, okay, we're gonna write together. I'm gonna write a line, and then you write a line, and then I'll write a line, and then you write a line, and then we take turns and we write stories like that. And then sometimes as punishment, it'd be like, okay, you're going to write me an entire story. I want 300 words about the little girl who lost her parents in the woods and had to find her way out. And then she would do that. But I was cultivating her creative instincts. And it turns out by the time she got to high school, and even now, she is the most creative of writers because we exercise that muscle. So when I read this guy's writing, it's like the same thing as me reading my 6-year-old Raven's writing when she was just learning how to write, when she was piggybacking off of my words and things that I was giving her to read. That's what it reminded me of, a 6-year-old trying to find their way. So why did we go on that rant anyway? My whole point is Chris is full of shit. Chris is full of shit. I don't know if we're there yet, but I think.
Is that Sophie?
Eliana, is that your dog?
No.
Sorry, it's my dogs.
Oh, it sounds like my wife.
My dog literally sits there and watches somebody go by or a squirrel and literally freaks out.
Mine's sleeping right now.
Oh, are you there? Are you listening to
Hey
me?
Nick, you know what happened, man? Yesterday I went on live with another guy, Brad the IT guy. He comes on my show often, and then I went into my man cave to go on live because I'd just gotten home. And she's like, "What are you being all secretive about?" It's like, I'm going on live with Brad. Do you want to join? And she was like, and she sounded exactly like your dog, is my point. And I said that, and Melissa was like, her mouth was agape. It's like, did you just say that? I sure did. And I'll stand by it, I'll co-sign it, I'll stamp it, I'll engrave it into wood if you want me to. Aluminum? Should we go glass? What are we doing? What are we doing today? I apologize. I'm like probably 0.12 right now. I've had myself a triple of a Knob Creek. I'm saying many things and I'm going to be so much in trouble for.
What time is it there then? And for me, it's only 3.
It's like
103.
It's 1 o'clock over here, but I just finished my work week like at 10 a.m. to start this podcast. And so it's usually my practice that I go on.
It's a little early for me right now, but
I've gotten used to it. It's like, yeah, it's 10 a.m. and I'm drinking a double. What you gonna do about it? So here we are, man. All right. So Pam was like, "Oh my Lord, Omar." Pam is like, she gets on me the most for the stuff that I say, man. She doesn't like me using certain words. She calls me out the most. She's like my ace moderator. What's up, Jules? How you been, Jules? I haven't seen Jules in a long time. She was on my last pod. She's been going through a spell.
they haven't been over on my channel for a while. I know Sarcasm and Jules haven't been there for a while.
Oh, well, go check out Zawaki, man. He's doing good work, man. Hey, and for all the people, look, I'm just gonna say this for all of the people that are pursuing a further, deeper investigation into Nichol Kessinger. I am aware, and I'm sure that I'm going to get a bunch of shit for even making this video. I'm just saying this, that to the extent that people are telling you to knock it off, don't pursue this any further, you're wasting your time, find something else, find a different, whatever they have to say, whatever stupid shit they got to say, stick with it, man. Stay the course, because I'm just going to say there might not be enough right now, but there is something there. And I have evaluated this for months, and I did a whole mock cross exam with Melissa. There is a line of cross examination that exists. All you need is a few extra facts, and you got yourself a case. And so I know that, look, the American public is unsettled with this case. Let's make no mistake about that.
It's because of NK.
They're unsettled because of an incomplete investigation in which they perceive that Nicole should have been implicated in something nefarious, that she hasn't been, that she's been let off the hook. And that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. And it's because of the evidence that exists out there. And so for people to come in and attack Nick, or to attack Watts, the Obsession, or to attack whatever channel, it's just noise, man. It's just noise. Stay the course, because your hard work may pay off. And the only reason people are still talking about it is because of people directly like Mr. Nick Hughes, who's done a lot of good work over the course of a couple of years in pursuing this case.
I've talked to lawyers as well to see if I'm legally doing things wrong, whatever like that. I'm not doing anything wrong.
You're not doing anything wrong. You're asking very public questions for regarding information that's very public. And the information that you have that isn't public, you haven't divulged.
I do think it's funny because I wanted to add this because Melissa's on here right now. People literally came to me and they're like, did like Nichol Kessinger get a like plastic surgery? I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, oh, Nichol Kessinger was on Omar's podcast. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, the woman that was being questioned. I'm like, that's one of his employees, I do believe. And they're like, oh, she played it so well. I thought it was Nicole.
Oh my!
No, it was not Nicole. It was not.
Like,
the
what are you
Nicole.
talking about? She doesn't even look like NK. Jesus.
She does kind of look like NK though. She does kind of look like NK.
No, I don't.
Maybe like a smaller
Well,
version.
what if she takes off the glasses? What does she look like then?
I don't know. Take off your glasses.
Was I wearing my glasses back then? I don't remember.
She kind of looks like NK. Like
She
you
could,
eyes a little bit.
yeah.
She's not NK. It's funny. I have a couple of North Carolina. How you doing, Jeff? I'm giving him a shout out. I have a couple of clients from North Carolina. I spent the day with them yesterday because we had a big hearing yesterday, and they got the chance to meet Melissa for the first time.
Mhm.
And they listened to the show and they were aware of the Nichol Kessinger mock trial examination thing. And so now, before when Melissa started, she was just my paralegal. Now when people call, it's like, oh, are you Nicole? Are you
Literally.
Nichol Kessinger?
You're Nicole. And I'm like, yes, that's me.
Everybody's in chat saying, stop it. NK looks like a dog. This girl is beautiful, Tiffany says.
How does what's the exception says she's like a spicy empanada or something? She's some kind of an empanada.
Who would want
That's
to be
what-
called an empanada? They smell.
It's when I was on the What's the Obsession show, the comments, they kept on calling her like a spicy empanada, which was gross. It was like gross.
Empanadas are great. No.
I don't know, man. She's not attractive. I will say this. I've had people in the comments, which I don't know was bullshit or not, but people have said that, hey, Nichol Kessinger is watching you. It's like, well, good.
I sure hope so.
I'm right here. I ain't going anywhere, bitch.
You can't tell me that she has not looked herself up.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Yes.
But I'll tell
Nothing-
you what, if she is watching my show, then she should be impressed by the fact that I have looked at all of the evidence. And I've even told you, Nick, that I didn't think there was enough to get her for anything, right? I've told you that like on multiple occasions. But with this new stuff, I've always told you that she should rue the day where Nick decides that, you know what, it's not fair that I'm sitting here in a jail cell for the rest of my life, and she's off there like starting some life with some new other guy, raising children or whatever, and his jealous impulses may just be enough to get him to flip on Nicole. And to the extent that he flips, because I know that everybody, if he does flip, everybody's gonna think he's biased or whatever, he's just talking shit. But if it connects to actual evidence that is out there that nobody else would have known, other than, you know, it would only make sense if it was actually a thing, then you may have a thread into an actual investigation that might lead to charges, that might lead to a conviction, ultimately. And so you just never know, man. You never know. I'm more of that mind than I was the last time I was on your show. The last time I was on your show, I was borderline, Nick, it's never going to happen, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's like, there's no chance. There's no chance. What's she going to do? She's going to just give the big confession to some bartender? She might, but you cued me into some stuff that I didn't even know that. The fact that there was doors opening and closing when everybody's supposed to either be dead or gone is significant. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Dieter's not opening up doors.
Yeah, that, and then you have Nick. You have Chris over here, and he is ruminating over this Jezebel harlot who led him astray to execute his entire family. Which, look, women, women. I'm speaking to women in their 30s and in their 20s. I'm like 43. You got to be careful about red flags with these guys, man. You got to be, if you date an insecure man and you start making, Eliana, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Eliana's like my parent in this. I may go off the rail on this. If you date an insecure man, you are always at risk for something like this to happen. If there's a guy that isn't used to being around attractive women, if you're around a guy that isn't used to getting attention from attractive women, then the first person that smiles at them wryly in the hallway upon passing is going to capture his attention, and he's going to do something nefarious to destroy your relationship. I'm not saying it's going to lead to an outright family annihilation, but it can. And my read of Chris from the very beginning is he was this fat boy that lost weight because he got onto some nutrition plan that was brought about by Shanann's involvement with this company that sold these products, and he started getting himself in shape, and he started getting attention from places he had never experienced it before, and he started getting himself enamored by this extra attention to the point where he was willing to get rid of his wife and kids to figure out where it all went. You cannot date a man like that. You can't marry a man like that. If you date a man like that, you're doing it at your own risk. If you marry a man like that, it's inevitably doomed to failure. If you're going to marry a man, it should be only with the understanding that he's 100% sowed his oats so that he doesn't have that fascination anymore with the unknown. And number two, that he's secure enough in his own manhood to be able to withstand attention from wayward harlots or Jezebels. And that's all I got to say about that. You got anything to add, Nick?
I mean, I can't say that I'm in the same mode as Chris because I was a fat boy, went in the military, I
was talking about you, Nick.
But I got into really good shape in the military, and I had women that would write me and stuff like that, but it takes a person to have a good mental stability too as well. And Chris's mental stability was suppressed. It was quiet. It was very alone. And I mean, I never thought about murdering people to get rid of them. It's called either separate, divorce. And that was the choice that he chose.
Yeah.
I can't put my head around it and fathom that was his true last resort.
I've heard a lot of people making a lot of excuses for Chris and his actions. It's not the normal response of a well-adjusted man to entertain those thoughts. I'll tell you what, if there's like a Nichol Kessinger that like hit me up and was like, hey, let's meet at the Lazy, I say, fuck you. I don't mean to curse, Pam, but I'm just so not interested in, like, I don't have the energy to devote to like get to know another woman, like entertain, like pretend like I'm all, like I was watching this TikTok the other day. It was like these older people that are dating like in their late 30s and 40s. It's like, oh, I'm going on another date. I got to like do all this small talk. It's like, oh, so what do you do for a living? Do you like it? Do you like what you do? Like, what are your goals in life? Like, what's your, whatever. And they're going through this. I don't have the patience or the wherewithal, the energy to entertain conversations like that. It would just not work out. I'm so not the guy, man. You might as well just move on. I have no interest in that whatsoever. That's the kind of guy that you want, man. That's able to turn down those kinds of invitations from wayward women. And look, Chris got himself in a certain level of shape. He had not lived with that kind of attention probably ever, and now he's getting it, and he's feeling a certain way about himself, and he goes in, as he would call it, was demon possessed by this harlot that was singing these siren songs that led him astray to end the life of his wife and his children. And because of that, because of his insecurities, his wife and his children are gone.
But he acted like Shanann was such a monster and an abuser mentally, physically, and all that stuff. And
actually painted it that way.
Shanann was such a good partner. I mean, even if
she was,
okay, let's just say that she was materialistic and she wanted like better things in life. Okay, she was also working towards it.
Mhm.
And she was
She's
like,
allowed to have that.
She
Yeah.
was painted as an overspender and splurger, and that she would just take all his money. Literally, that was a picture he painted of her.
but she was so devoted to her kids, and she was so devoted
is
to that
true.
marriage, even in her last days. And he had such a good thing going with that woman.
And she made more than him.
Yeah, she did.
Mhm.
She made
yeah,
more
he-
than him.
Yeah, he kept saying, "Oh, my paycheck went into the account and then it was gone." That's usually how it works, my dude.
That's how bills works, bitch. What you gonna
Do you
do?
think he felt emasculated?
He was probably emasculated, and Nicole was like paying him all this attention. It was this brand new shiny thing, but he didn't have the life experience to recognize that for what it was and to reject it when push come to shove. He's over here annihilating families in the name of it all, and then blaming it on demons and such. Whatever your religious inclination, whatever, whether or not you're red or blue in terms of political affiliation, regardless of what you are, if you're dating a man like that, and you don't recognize the red flags, you are in danger. And that's all I really got to say about the matter. That's the update that we have on Chris Watts. Nick is doing the Lord's work over there with his continued coverage. I mean, he said with his continued coverage of this case, he's keeping this case alive where people are shitting on his channel because they think that he's doing too much. Hey, change only comes when people do too much. And so to that regard, I caught a video of Nick's where, he was down in the dumps because of things that he was getting. And, I wanted to let him know that, hey, man, don't let those effing people, get you down. Like, I get a lot of people like that. I don't know if it's to the extent of what Nick gets. I've got people telling me that they're like stalking me or watching me or whatever. It's like, well, I'm right effing here.
Well, I've gotten death threats, and I've said, well, I have concealed to carry, so.
Yeah, Nick is military, man. He will. He wishes you would.
I'm locked and loaded whenever, so.
People take it too seriously.
Oh.
Make threats.
That's the thing. It's like, what are we doing to cause you problems? It's like you are at home watching this. It's like somebody contacting Fox News and saying, I'm going to blow up your station because I don't like how you portray the news. I mean, that's how stupid it is.
Yeah, exactly. There's people out there that don't have much to do. I don't understand
they don't
people
have
that
anything to do.
invest so much emotional time and argument with
like Melissa said, they literally have nothing to do, and they literally love to watch the world burn.
Yeah,
it's like when I go to
they do
on social media, on Instagram or TikTok, of famous people or influencers, and I see this outrageous, stupid. I don't like your hair. It's horrible. I'm like, do you really have the energy to like my face is always like, what the hell?
Yo. Oh, I gotta.
The energy.
All right.
I would have to.
We're gonna be losing Ileana. She's got court hearings in like 13 minutes, and so we're gonna have to wrap up.
You're gonna have to also lose me because I have to go get my son.
Oh, well, go get your boy. Don't let him wait on account of us. All right, hey Ileana, if you end your hearings early, I'll probably still be on the air with Melissa doing Family Law After Dark. Hey folks, we're going to be wrapping up today's show. We're going to be doing our Family Law After Dark podcast in about 5 minutes or so. But I want to thank Nick, number one, for all of his hard work, and I want people to acknowledge that Nick has put himself out there for the better part of a couple of years now. He's been pursuing this case, and he's been doing all of the work behind the scenes. All he's looking for and all he's asking for is justice. And for anybody to attack him, Jesus Christ, you're attacking us all. And I stand behind Nick, and I appreciate what he's doing. And I want Nick, I don't ever want you to stop what you're doing. I want you to remain steadfast in what you do. I have your back no matter what. You'll always have my support, and we could talk and do another show whenever you want, whenever new evidence comes out. And if you haven't done so already, go check out Zawaki's show and some of the good work that he's done on this case. Go and visit and subscribe to his channel. I think he's like at 55,000. I don't know. He's on his way.
We're almost about to hit 60.
Yeah, he's doing big things over there and growing. So go visit him. Hey Nick, thank you so much for joining us for this. I didn't expect you to come. I was like, I didn't want to ask. I knew it was going to be last minute.
I just got home from work and was looking at what I'm going to be making for the day, and I saw that you were on. I'm like, oh, I'll give it a go watch. And you're like, hey, join in. I'm like, okay.
It's like, hell yeah.
So,
why not? Eliana, go handle your business. Business with the parents. If you're still around by the time, I'll probably be going for like an hour and a half with Melissa.
Okay.
Hey, folks, go head over to our Family Law After Dark live stream. I'm going to be doing it in about 5 minutes. If you don't know where to find it, just go to our channel. It's upcoming, and we're going to start it shortly. Eliana, just text me or just join. I sent you a link whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
You're going to miss the penis sleeve conversation. So
no, thanks. I'm good. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks. We will see you guys later. For the rest of you folks, we'll see you guys over there. Nick and Liana, we'll see you guys later. And that's all we have to say for the Chris Watts Show. We will see you guys on Family Law After Dark. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you guys next time.